People ask me, so why do you like coming here after 15 years? And I just get up in the morning and want to come to work because I feel that the work that we do actually does make a difference.
It really came out of conversations that were happening in around 1976 and 77. Walter Lear, who at that point was one of the few visibly, openly gay people who was sort of respected and seen as part of the larger community as opposed to as a gay activist. He was one of the people who came together to work on the formation of the task force and proposed that we have a committee around health issues in the lesbian and gay community.
I don't recall how Walter got my name. That I don't remember. But he called me and asked me if I'd like to participate in a group to get together a gay and lesbian health center in Philadelphia. The LGBT patient community has been underserved and misunderstood by physicians and other healthcare practitioners for many, many years. There's been almost no training on special needs or special ways of approaching LGBT individuals, and that's where it came from, his observation of the need.
As it became clear that there was an epidemic of gay-related immune deficiency, that's what we called it at the time, there was panic. I mean, there was panic everywhere. The AIDS task force was formed as a committee of what was by that time PCHA, and that was a doctor's group.
With the AIDS task force, I was one of the original volunteers back in 1981. Starting off with doing STD, sexually transmitted disease outreach at the bathhouses and in the bars, and then also working at their clinic for clients who came in, which was on Spruce Street at that point. Peter started with the organization after the Philadelphia AIDS Task Force had started. He was a physician in private practice. He took a really deep interest within the organization, so not only committing himself on time, but committing himself to fundraising on the board and management on the board, but then also being on the front line himself. Just seeing the dedication that he was working with there was just simply amazing.
I think that if Peter was around, he would be extremely proud. When I talked to some of the founding members of the organization and some of the people who knew Peter, actually we have a board member who was together with him in medical school and worked with him, and he said that Peter would be extremely, extremely proud of the work that we have done. If you look at the progression of the organization, we started 30 years ago as an LGBT health organization. We stayed true to the community when the AIDS epidemic hit and became an AIDS organization. And as we've seen in the last decade and over a decade, Mazzoni Center has really increased both in capacity and in the services that we provide. When I took over, we were really an exclusively HIV and AIDS organization. Nowadays, we're much more than that. We provide housing, we provide legal services, mental health, drug and alcohol. In our prevention, we do a lot more. So we really have looked back into what is the mission of an LGBT health and wellness organization, and we're really trying to fulfill that mission.
After I was originally involved in the formation of Philadelphia Community Health Alternatives, I really wasn't involved in it after that. So to see what the accomplishments had been in 30 years was really incredible to me and made me feel just terrific and made me feel even prouder of Walter Lear for what he had done.
I now have the perspective of 15 years to see how far we have come from a small, on the margin kind of an organization to a fairly large organization that truly has an impact on individual lives and on policies of the city of Philadelphia.
When I first started out, my mission with the AIDS Task Force, or PCHA years and years and years ago, was this whole more holistic aspect that the Mazzoni Center is now working with, and the depth and breadth of that again, and just seeing that they're doing so well with that. I mean, that's what I volunteered for 30 years ago, and I'm just glad to see that they're still doing it today.
My name is Arthur Robinson Williams. I'm the producer of My Right Self, a photo documentary with transgender folks in the Philadelphia area. I got the idea to do a photo project with transgender people in 2007. In part, that built off of MiND, the Employee Non-Discrimination Act. Once the Democrats had gotten control of Congress in 2007, they tried to get that passed again, and at the last minute, they cut out protections for gender identity in the workplace. And that, I think, revealed a rift, or various rifts, within the LGBTQ community. This project started in part because I was interested in, what does transgender mean? And I think, that whoever you ask will have their own version of what transgender means. And in some ways, that's probably the most important thing to understand, is that there isn't a hard and fast definition, either for transsexualism or transgenderism or genderqueer. And especially with more recent, I think movements within trans communities, if anything, the whole point has been, thinking about queerness in particular, trying not to label things and define them so that people feel pressured to be a certain way. Rather, it's really about embracing people as they identify. I think part of the passion behind my photography work is this idea that I can work with communities or people to create images that do run counter to the more general and stereotyped images that people are used to seeing. And that was definitely a motive with this project, like all of mine, to work with trans folks to create much more humanistic, sort of balanced portraits with people that don't portray them in very sort of idiosyncratic and narrow and constricted manners, just focusing on anatomy or on difference or otherness, but working with people to create really beautiful images. It was certainly wonderful to get to meet the folks involved in the project, and I really respect that they were willing to be in front of the camera and that they were willing to write about really personal things and to share that basically with anyone in the world who might come across it.
So my name is Dane Menken, and I was one of the subjects that Rob interviewed for the My Right Self project. He started with me and my then partner, now wife, Erin Schmidt. He thought that we would be sort of good candidates because we were in the process of trying to have a child. From the time I was a child, I always was, hi little boy, or if I was with my younger sister, what's your brother's name? And got called sir all the time, even as a young kid. And I don't think my family ever particularly had such a hard time with that, although my parents would always say, this is my daughter, if they were introducing me. But I hated it. It made me crazy from the time I can remember as a small child. It made me nuts because I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand how to make it different, if I wanted it to be different, if I wanted it to be true, if I just didn't want to be identified as something that I didn't think I was, or if I didn't want my parents to be embarrassed. I didn't want them to be uncomfortable, even if I didn't particularly care. They had no idea what it meant to take testosterone and what it meant to, what does that mean surgically, and what do we tell the rest of the family? How does this happen? Are you going to change your name? Are you, what does any of this mean for the bigger picture? And my God, are you ever going to be able to be employed? I think they just see the worst case scenario. They see, people that have no job opportunities but street work, or they have no job opportunities so they're homeless, or they really become people that really fall prey to a pretty strict social system that we have in this country. But I think as time went on and they saw that it just wasn't my experience, that my professional career continued to grow, and my relationship got better, and my relationship with them actually got better, because all of a sudden I didn't have two sets of clothes, one that I wore when I saw my family and one when I wore when I wasn't with my family, and all of a sudden I didn't mind going to visit. There's positive outcomes to this process that when you start is daunting. Think about yourself at one of the most vulnerable times in your life, whether you just had a baby, or you're buying a house, or you're starting a new job, or one of your parents is really sick. And try to understand how you wanted to be treated at that point. Because I think somebody who is transitioning or has just disclosed that they're transgender feels just very vulnerable, and your response is gonna make or break their level of integrity or their sense of self. So try to just understand a point where you felt really vulnerable and somebody really helped you, or really just made your life not so complicated. And if you can do that, and it's not that hard, you've just done a world of good.
We started the Attic Youth Center because there were no services for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning youth in the city of Philadelphia or in the suburban areas. There were no professional services for this population of youth, and so myself and a student from Penn started an 8-week pilot project. And frankly, we asked Voyage House, which is a mainstream youth serving agency, if they would allow us to use their space for an 8-week project, see lesbian and gay youth. And in the first 8 weeks, 41 kids came to the attic. And so we were able to say to Voyage House, hey, look, this is a service that's really sorely needed.
This building is a historic site, so we are a historic organization because we're the only LGBTQ youth serving organization in Philadelphia that our specific goal is to service lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered and questioning youth.
Some of the programming at the Attic Youth Center consists of CAGs. CAGs is what we initial as creative action groups. These CAGs here at the Attic Youth Center run from about 11 to 12 weeks. In the 11 to 12 weeks with their culminating project, they get the most enjoyment out of that. That's the most exciting part, that they get to think about the project, brainstorm the project, and then see their work at a completion with the culminating project. It's exciting, it's exciting.
The Bryce Institute is the education/outreach department for the Attic, and so what we do is we go out into the community and work with providers, social service agencies, what does LGBT stand for, what are the best ways to work with LGBTQ youth, you know, those types of things.
First off, I love the diversity with people here and how they're from different backgrounds. There are some who are into certain types of music, there are some who are into dancing, there are those who are into video games, there are those who may be from the suburbs, from New Jersey, or what have you.
In my 6 years of being here, I've experienced true friendship, true family, and true love. And I think, honestly, without the Attic, I would not be the person I am today.
Some youth come in with some very severe home problems and homelessness and just life obstacles. And some of those folks now are in their early 30s. And we have teachers, we have folks in med school, we have doctors, we have lawyers. But most of all, we have many of our alumni that work in this same field, advocating for the rights of LGBTQ youth and giving back what was given to them.
I first came to the Attic because I felt that I knew I was gay. There was no other resources out there for me, and someone told me about the Attic, and so I came down.
Like in school right now, I'm taking psychology, and I want to do gender queer issues, and I want to work with gender queer teens. And the reason behind that is because of the Attic.
This place serves as a great service to the community, a great service to the community. I don't know where a lot of our kids would be without them.
The Attic's been really a challenging and incredible experience. And the challenge is what keeps me going. And the youth are what keep me going. And so in order to secure the future and safety and permanency of these youth, we intend to expand our programming to further address these needs and to work with other service providers so that the needs of these young people do not fall through the cracks.
It is okay to be you.
It's 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 okay to be you.
No, seriously, it's okay to be you. It's okay to be you.
LGBTQ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning.
LGBTQ, I think the main focus of that when people hear it, they think, oh, gay or lesbian, you know, a man who likes another man or a woman who likes another woman, but there's a lot more to it, like as far as gender identity. You know, someone might look at me, I get surd, not as much as some people, but I get surd sometimes, you know. What does that mean, that my gender identity is a little more masculine? What does it mean when, you know, a man is sort of feminine? So that's sort of a queerness. There's a queerness to it. You know, some people aren't comfortable with that word, but for me, it's not just sexual identity, who you like to have sex with, but how you dress, how you present yourself in society.
Coming out is the process in which a person first acknowledges and accepts his or her sexual identity and starts to share that with others.
Coming out can be on many levels, but basically there's a personal coming out process where people come out to themselves, decide who they are and what they want, and then there's dealing with their environment, whether it be family, home, friends, work, whoever they choose to deal with, and coming out in that process. Coming out is not something which happens all at once. People usually come out very gradually.
Coming out to yourself, whatever that is the first step. And then you have to figure out what the next boundaries are.
If somebody comes out and they find that they're not supported, either by family or friends, there's a couple things I would advise. One is, as I had previously mentioned, to be patient. Sometimes people, their knee-jerk reaction to finding out their daughter or son is gay, and they may not have grandchildren, is horrifying. Not to mention all of the other things that they assume go along with being gay, which may or may not be true, but they're stereotypes which are in our society, and people may associate that with the coming out process or with their son or daughter. So be patient with them. That's for them. And it'll also help you in the process to know that it's not an overnight thing. They may take their time in coming around. And many, many people do come around eventually, even who've had a violently negative reaction immediately.
I think that finding resources, or, you know, if you're coming out to someone, having resources to provide them, like PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, or even WILmde, you know, they're just finding a group here or just getting information here. I think that's important, is just sort of being open-minded, asking a lot of questions, and also potentially giving space if you're uncomfortable with what they're saying or how they're coming out, you know, how they're coming out to you. It's important to not, you know, lash out in anger, but just, you know, if you don't understand, say, I don't understand right now, but I am going to need some space to, you know, figure out what this means to me and my relationship with you.
Family and friends of people who are coming out could help them on their journey by being patient, by being open, honest, but sensitive, and know that that person probably is having a very, very, very difficult time coming out to them. And so if they can be supportive in any way, even if they don't agree with the process or like the process, if they could find ways to put boundaries on negative stuff, baggage, and just listen to the person and be as supportive as they can. And at times agree to disagree. The person is on a journey and it's not going to change if you don't like it. So you need to buckle up and go for the ride.
Community Center is it's a LGBT community center. It's right in the heart of the gayborhood here in Philadelphia. And it's really a place for gay people to come and to feel comfortable and to just relax and meet friends or participate in the programs.
My name is Bill Pelley, and I'm a volunteer with the WILmde Center. And in particular, I'm a volunteer with the Connecting Generations program.
Connecting Generations program is really near and dear to my heart. It's a program where we try to match seniors in the community with younger people in the community.
Typical visit would be I would arrive at around noontime, and we would have maybe a cup of tea or a cup of coffee in Alan's kitchen, and then we would go perhaps out to have lunch together or take a little trip somewhere, either by foot or by car. Once we went to the opera together, and that was very nice. That was something special. It just lightens his spirits and lightens my spirit as well.
You know, it's hard to face the fact that you're getting older and that you can't do everything that you could do. And in the generations that they grew up, their brothers and sisters have, you know, they don't contact them. You know, there was, you know, it wasn't really as acceptable as for today. So a lot of them are just very, very isolated from their families. And like I said, they don't have children or spouses. So we try to just let people know that that's the reality of it. Sometimes the seniors struggle with finding where to go for LGBT support, or so it's really just keeping them informed. I think they sort of struggle with what resources there are for them, because sometimes they assume there are none, but we do have some things out there in the community.
As you get older, you have a certain amount of struggle, in part because of discrimination, and then when you're gay and older, it's somewhat of a double whammy, because you face discrimination if you're gay.
LGBT issues are different. You know, I mean, we have some you know, obstacles that we're still getting over. The stigma, a lot of the healthcare workers that work in facilities that are you know, the standard healthcare facilities are, you know, there's still some homophobia out there, and there's still some issues where they don't know. They just haven't been educated, or just really don't know how to react to, or, you know, they've maybe never been around a gay person. So that's the biggest concern, I think, is the lack of knowledge and training out there in the community, and it's frightening to some people.
A lot of gays will go back into the closet, especially if they have to go into a continuing care facility for fear of discrimination because of their sexual proclivity.
You know, it's just easier to get along in life by not being who you really are, unfortunately. So we struggle to find them sometimes. We really try to reach out to the community, let people know that the program is here, and when we get the opportunity, we'll call somebody and ask them if they're interested. So it's really grassroots sometimes with finding seniors. I think there's a stigma sometimes that, you know, people don't want to ask for help, and this is a way of asking for help, but it's really not. It's just a way to stay in the community and stay connected. And most, in every case, what we find is that the seniors give back more to these volunteers than the volunteers could ever give to these seniors. So I think if seniors just realize that they have a lot to offer, and really think of it as helping us a little bit, you know, it would be wonderful.
The principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions,
calling us always to treat all others as we wish to be treated ourselves.
Compassion impels us to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our fellow creatures.
To dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there.
To honor the inviolable sanctity of every single human being.
Treating everybody without exception.
With absolute justice, equity, and respect.
Supposed to be the highlight of Sunday service at Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. A performance of Annie by children just finished with church music camp. But the singing was silenced by deadly gunfire.
We're here to talk to you a little bit about the Knoxville shootings that occurred this last Sunday in Tennessee. As you've probably heard from all the different reports on the news and on the internet, a man entered the sanctuary of the Knoxville Unitarian Universalist congregation and opened fire. 2 have been reported dead and many others wounded. One usher of the church was quite heroic in that he used his own body as a barrier to prevent others from being harmed.
Investigators in Knoxville, Tennessee now say Jim Atkinson left behind a 4-page letter that is helping their investigation.
It appears that what brought him to this horrible event was his stated hatred for the liberal movement.
All of this has led me to return to church on Sunday, August 3rd, to be with you as a church family as we meditate and reflect upon this tragedy. In preparation for that, I wanted to ask you a few questions. The first question is, how would you respond to such an event? As you know, this last fall, we reflected in a worship service on the killings that occurred in an Amish schoolhouse not far from our own community. We reflected upon the fact that last November, a shooting occurred just 2 blocks from our church one night after a board meeting. So what is it about the violence in our society, in our communities? What is it about the violence that has taken place, and how would we respond? As you may know, Tennessee has a death penalty, and I'm wondering, will the man who engaged in these murders in a Unitarian Universalist church in Tennessee be placed on death row? And if so, will Unitarian Universalists affirm this policy, affirm such a decision? I don't know, but I do want to know what you think about this situation. I want to know how we as a church family will address the violence in our own community. I want to know how we will be there to support the Knoxville community. I want to know how we will regain a sense of safety in our own sanctuary, aware that such violence occurred in a sister congregation sanctuary. What does it mean to truly provide a safe space? I hope we can do that together, and I hope that in this time we can provide each other comfort, just like this beautiful animal companion provides us comfort in our times of grief and sorrow. So in this time of grieving, I just want you to know that I love you all. I'm glad we're together as a family, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.